Hello music students. Today we are looking at the Unit 4 review. Now I want you to do this on your own as much as possible. If you have a question, you're certainly welcome to contact me. But as we've discovered with these reviews in the past, all of the answers are really in the lessons from this group. So you can go back into your theory file and you can look at anything. This is lessons 14 through 17. So for example, you're looking at that first question. Repeat signs are two dots before or after a, if I just can't remember what it comes after, I'm gonna go back to the lesson that, deals with repeat signs, which is lesson 14. And I'm gonna look for where it has the definition of a repeat sign. It's right there. Two dots placed before or the double bar. Double bar. And guess what? It was a 2-line answer I was looking for, so I'd come over here and I'd write that into the blanks. There you go. I just gave you your first question. So if anybody gets that wrong, I know you didn't watch the video. Number 2, this is a question that tends to cause a little bit of trouble for students. And I think it's the only one like this. So number 2, how many total measures would a musician play in the following example? Well, you got to include the repeat. If I just counted how many measures are written, I would see 1, 2, 3, 4, only 5 measures. But that's not right. If you put 5, it is wrong. You will not get a point. Remember, I have to include the repeat. So this is measure 1, measure 2, 3, 4. Now when I repeat, this becomes the 5th measure, the 6th measure, the 7th measure, and then I skip over to that, so it would be a total of 8 measures. Again, I gave you an answer, so if for some reason you get this wrong, I know you didn't watch the video. Giving you answers to help you. Okay, number 3, I'm not going to go through that because we've done quite a few of them. Just please notice that it's asking you for the correct number. You're not drawing a note. Correct number. Number 4, complete the notes by adding stems to the first measure and beamed notes in pairs to the second measure. So the stems in the first measure are going to turn them into quarter notes. Whoops, that's not what I want. And then in the second measure, I'll be turning them into eighth notes, beaming them in pairs, like that. And it also says be sure the stems are pointing in the correct direction. So remember, the important part is that, that's way too thick. That middle line, wow, right there. If it's on or above that middle line, the stems go down. If it's below it, the stems are going up. Number 5, fill in the correct number. Let's review some note values and rest values on the side here real quick. So we've had whole notes and whole rest. Remember, whole rest looks like a whole. Those typically get 4 beats, unless, of course, remember the whole note would be the whole measure. Then we've had the dotted half note. We haven't worried about a rest for that one. That's 3 beats. Regular half note or half rest, 2 beats. Quarter note, quarter rest, 1 beat. We've actually even had the dotted quarter note now, which is 1.5. Remember, a dot adds half of the original note's value. And we've now had eighth notes by themselves, and eighth rest. By themselves, that's half of a beat. But if they're beamed together, then you would have that fill an entire beat. Okay, so there's your quick review on all those rhythms. Number 6, complete the measure by adding 1 rest above each arrow. It doesn't mean they're all going to be the same kind of rest. It just means you're adding one rest. So I'm going to do a few of these for you to help you kind of get ready. Now remember, anytime you see a single eighth note, it's pretty safe to assume the other part that's missing is going to be an eighth rest. If I would fill this in, that would be beats 4 and. That's 3 and. Okay, right here I've got another single eighth note, so it's probably going to be an eighth rest. That would be 2 and then I would just be missing beat 1, which would get a quarter rest for an entire beat, right? In the second measure, there are 2 arrows, so I'm going to use 2 different rests to fill in what's missing. Well, this is 1 and, so I'm missing beats 2, 3, 4. Well, I can fill beat 2, a quarter rest, and I can fill 3 and 4 together. I don't know what's going on with my iPad. So I'm going to fill 3 and 4. It's a half rest sitting on top of that line. All right, so now you'll do the other 2 measures. Again, if you get anything wrong in those 2 measures, it's not good because I gave you the answer. Dotted quarter note. Remember, when you add a dot to something, you add half of the original note's value. So a quarter note is 1 beat. A dot, you add half of a quarter note, which is half a beat. You can figure out what that is then. All right, now this next part, I put a couple exercises in here with this. You notice I stole these from a different assignment down here, but they're all basically the same thing. We did not do well with the repeat signs. That lesson was really, really bad. So I want to review repeat signs with you in class on Wednesday. If you want to start looking at this, that's fine, but maybe wait to submit your assignment until after we review together. I'm going to skip number 8 and go straight to this one down here. Rewrite the following example using repeat signs. Please notice they already drew the bar lines in there for you. So you are going to have a total of 4 measures that you're copying down. They gave you the blank measures right in here, and they even put the repeat sign there. So all you need to do is copy down the notes that need to get repeated. And you always start from the beginning. The first measure is going into the first measure. The second measure is going into the second measure. Third measure to the third measure, and fourth measure to the fourth measure. And then, if you did it correctly, so we just got to right there, that should mean that these 4 measures and these 4 measures are the exact same. Are they? Well, look through it. Yes, they are. They're exactly the same. So it's perfect. It worked out perfectly. But it only works out perfectly if you copy them down correctly and you don't try to add measures. Last time some of you did this, and you just wrote down all of the measures again. Well, that defeats the purpose of the repeat sign. You don't need to draw any bar lines in there, okay? Now, number 8 and number 2 down here are pretty much the same thing. So I'm going to actually show you using number 2 because this one's a little shorter. So we're looking at this one. Same as what I did in the first example. I'm going to start at the beginning. That measure is the first measure. That measure is the second measure. That measure is the third measure. That measure is the fourth measure. And now that means I've got the repeat sign. So that's where I ended up, okay? What that means is this measure, let's change color. This measure here should be the same thing as what's over here in measure 1. And then this one should be the same as that. And this should be the same as the third one. Which would mean now you're left with just this final measure. And guess what? That's going to go in the final measure on the bottom. Again, it only works if you actually write the notes in the correct order. Unfortunately, what I saw some of you do on the assignment was just writing random notes, and I think you were maybe doing the right rhythms, but because you weren't putting them on the right lines and spaces, it wasn't really making sense to you. You weren't able to keep track of where you were. So, for example, in this first measure, some people did something like, okay, there's my rhythm. Okay, sure, it's the same rhythm as the first measure, but those notes are not at all in the right spots. You gotta copy them down how they are so that you know what you're doing, where it's coming from. Now, I don't expect this to be absolutely perfect, but I need to be able to tell where those notes are. If I can't tell what line or space they're on, that's a problem, guys. You need to take your time and actually do the work. Not many of you are having that problem. It's only a few. So right there, like that's not very neat because I'm not at a great angle with my iPad here, but I can tell what line and space they're on, right? I would accept that. And some of you do a much neater job. Some of you are doing a very, very good job of keeping it really clean, but some of you have no idea what you're putting there. So if that's you, please be a little bit more careful about that. Take your time, draw neatly. If you want to get your points, you got to do the work well. All right? So that's all I've got for you today. We'll talk about those repeat signs again in class on Wednesday. Hopefully this video helps you get started, and again, I'll be able to tell who actually watched it because I gave you some of the answers. So, good luck. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.